Welcome to the newest video on the OPI PIB YouTube channel, broadcast from Warsaw, Poland. My name is Luigi Lai, and I'm a lawyer, and I study the legal effects of a digital transformation and artificial intelligence. For the first time, today's episode is in English, so that we can reach all our viewers who are now watching in all the 5 continents. A warm welcome to you all. The purpose of this video is to raise awareness. We want to spark your curiosity. If you are watching this series of videos, it means that you have a desire for knowledge and a quite degree high of curiosity. Now, let's start. Today, I'm going to share some thoughts on the legal aspects of digital transformation and artificial intelligence, with a particular focus on the balance between innovation, the protection of rights, and collective responsibility. I am going to focus on the strength of algorithms, the possible critical issues that arise from them, and the importance of safeguarding the central role of the individual. Finally, I am going to introduce the concept of superdemocracy, a form of civil participation that is enriched by new technologies. Some of you might think that this is two technical subjects, or even a dual one. Perhaps some of you believe that we shouldn't place too many restrictions of technological development. And yet, it is precisely at this moment that we are laying the foundation for what will happen in the distant future, even in the 22nd century. That means that the decision we make today, both at the legislative level and at a social level, will have a profound impact on those who come after us. It is not a question of holding back innovation, but of thinking carefully about how to govern it, so that AI serves humanity effectively and doesn't compromise our dignity or the fundamental rights. In fact, we are all involved, legislators, the firms that develop the algorithm, and we citizens who use them on a daily basis. Everyone can and must make their contribution, collaborating in the design of a society of the future and ensuring that generations to come can be proud of the choices we are making today. Let me give you some practical examples. There are over 7 billion mobile phones in the world, with a world population that is slightly lower than that number. In the last 10 years, we have produced 3 or 4 times more data than in the previous 4,000 years, since the invention of writing. In fact, we are shaping a machine-friendly environment. We build warehouses and organize agricultural fields in such a way that robots can operate at their best. Paradoxically, machines are not yet capable of performing some seemingly simple tasks, such as transferring dirty dishes from the sink to the dishwasher. This seemingly trivial example demonstrates that the crux of the matter is not only the digital transformation, but the government of the digital too. Then there are platforms like Amazon or Netflix with huge sophisticated algorithms to suggest what to buy or what to watch. In practice, by delegating these choices, we entrust enormous power to external recommendation system, which narrows directs the range of our options. Whoever controls the algorithm controls the power. It is not a rhetorical expression, but a concrete reality. If in the past, those who produced the machines were the truly rich ones, today production is much cheaper and information is often free. This has shifted wealth into the hands of those who manage the data, the platforms that create the interfaces through which we formulate our questions, and the algorithms that tell us what choices we can make. As individuals and as society, we cannot allow these dynamics to remain unchecked. The most appropriate form of control is regulation, provided it is wise and effective. In absence of rules, we risk a Darwinian anarchy in which the strongest prevail, and that doesn't always coincide with the best collective interest. At this point, we should move on to a quick overview of the most relevant legislation. Before exploring the risks and the opportunities, it is worth mentioning the main regulatory references that govern the use of data and artificial intelligence. Those are the GDPR EU Regulation 2016 number 679. This piece of legislation is the basis for the protection of personal data in Europe. It establishes the right not to be subject to decisions based solely on automated processing and at the same time guarantees human intervention in such a process. The second piece of legislation is the proposed Artificial Intelligence Act from the European Union. This is quite important act. It introduced a quite famous classification by risk level: unacceptable, high, limited or minimal, with specific obligation for developers and users. It aims to protect fundamental rights, especially in sensitive sectors like health, finance and justice. Now let's cross the ocean and let's go to the USA. In the USA we have the Digital Service Act, DSA, and the Digital Market Act, DMA. Those regulate large digital platforms and online marketplaces to ensure transparency and fair competition and user protection. This constantly evolving regulatory landscape is evidence of legislation awareness, i.e., cannot be left to its own alone, let's say, because its implication affects individual freedoms and socio-economic organization in both the short and long term. Now, let's see something. Why must we focus so strongly on artificial intelligence? Let's outline the advantages. Efficiency and automatization. Reduction of inhuman errors and optimization of times in the public sector. Automatization can improve the management of bureaucratic procedures and reduce judicial backlogs. Predictive analysis and big data, identifying complex patterns and correlation in large amounts of data, which has important implications in medicine, finance and fraud prevention. Innovation and competitiveness. New professions are emerging, such as data scientists or digital ethics experts, which has a positive impact on growth and skilled employment. Personalized services, from customer support to government chatbots. Personalization improves the user's experience and makes services more accessible. In short, artificial intelligence is not only synonymous with automatization, it can also become a driving force for progress and shared well-being, as long as its use is regulated in such a way that it remains at service of the individual. However, we cannot ignore that critical issue that emerge when artificial intelligence is adopted on a large scale. Algorithm bias, like this one, training data can contain biases if unmonitored. These are reflected in automated decisions, generating forms of discrimination, for example in recruitment. Privacy and data security of artificial intelligence. Now, I want to show you something. Now, we all see what is on the screen. We see how now the artificial intelligence is creating some pictures which are not real. Nevertheless, on social media, like for example Facebook, we see how many thousand people believe that these pictures are true. This is a true risk for democracy, because it's not only some comments which sometimes may be funny, but the main problem is that we do believe what we see with our eyes, but not always what we see with our eyes is true. Now, establishing who is responsible in the case of damage caused by algorithms is far from simple. The debate centers on how to attribute responsibility to developers, owners, or users in the absence of clear regulations. Concentration of power. This is another big problem. Only a few large firms are able to manage huge amount of data and influence at the same time social and political trends. This imbalance risks to undermine competition and democracy itself. All of this highlights the importance of constant vigilance and adequate regulations. Please remember that, although our data taken individually is perhaps worth a cup of coffee a year, controlling the data of billions of people represents immense power. For this reason, we should be concerned about those ways that abuses and distortion that can proliferate if due attention is not paid. Now, how can we prevent abuse and safeguard people's fundamental rights? The answer is synergy between the legislator, the market, and the citizens. Laws and regulation should be flexible enough to remain valid in a rapidly evolving technological context. Independent bodies might be established for ethical audits and certification, so as to guarantee the transparency and reliability of artificial intelligence systems. Another important point is digital participation and what I called superdemocracy. Superdemocracy is an idea from a futurist called Thomas Frey. Digital tools have the potential to enhance traditional democracy, making citizen consultation more accessible, transparent and dynamic. Through real-time feedback mechanisms, policy making can become more responsive and participatory. One of the most pressing challenges in modern democracies is low turnout. When fewer people vote, democracy is weakened. Electoral results risk being shaped primarily by highly mobilized minority groups, rather than reflecting broader public opinion. This creates a fertile ground for clientelism, under which only those with direct interest at stake, the clients so-called, or people who are politically or economically dependent on certain groups or parties. By expanding access to democratic participation through digital tools, superdemocracy offers a way to counteract this trend. Secure and inclusive e-voting system, digital consultation and blockchain-based electoral transparency can help engaging a wider segment of the population, making it easier for citizens to participate in decision-making processes, without logistical or bureaucratic barriers. For such a model to be effective, digital divide must be bridged, and strong cybersecurity protection must be implemented. This will prevent manipulation, while fostering public trust. In this sense, superdemocracy is not about replacing democratic institutions, but instead is about augmenting and revitalizing them, ensuring that governance remains representative, inclusive, and resilient. Another question is shared responsibility. Like a garden which requires constant maintenance, the digital ecosystem must also be cared and monitored. The legislator sets rules, but Without the active contribution of companies and individuals, the rules risk being ineffective. Essentially, superdemocracy is a new way of seeing things, a more dependable model. That future depends on technology being used to promote participation and transparency, rather than as just an instrument of control. We are now coming to the end of today's broadcast. A question I often hear is, how much hope do you have to change the world? Or, can your proposal, however interesting, really make a difference? My answer is that I don't just work with hope, but I work for the hope, so that its flame always remain alive and lead us towards a more equitable and just society. As the famous film Dead Poets Society teaches us, we should avoid being passive in the face of the great challenges of our time. Instead, we should suck the marrow of life and also the knowledge, putting ourselves out there with courage and responsibility. Maybe you remember the phrase carpe diem, which is not about living for the day, but about seizing the present moment to consciously build a better future. Our choices today make the foundation for what the society of the 22nd century will be like. It is a delicate task, one that requires collaboration, fair rules, and strong will to protect the rights of us all. If everyone plays their part, from legislators to entrepreneurs, from students to professionals, we can truly usher in a season of responsible innovation, in which artificial intelligence remains at the service of humanity. Now, let's take a moment to watch a short extract from the movie Dead Poets Society, an inspirational work that embodies the spirit's research and the thirst for knowledge that should guide everybody of us every day.
The dead poets were dedicated to sucking the marrow out of life. Spirits soared, women swooned, and gods were created.
Dare to walk a new path, dare to strike out.
Now, my class, you will learn to think for yourselves again.
The powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse.
Good luck!
Seize the day.
To strive, to seek, to find.
First time in my whole life, I know what I want to do.
Don't you forget this.
Kick at it, beat it, it'll never cover any of us. From the moment we enter crying to the moment we leave dying, it'll just cover your face as you wail and cry and scream.
Because we are food for worms, lads. Because believe it or not, each and every one of us in this room is one day going to stop breathing, turn cold, and die. What will your verse be?
I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please support us with a like on the left corner of this page. Your feedback will help us to create a better content. I'll end this video with a recommendation. Always be thirsty, my friend. Be thirsty for knowledge. Only by cultivating curiosity and critical spirit will be able to face the challenges posed by technology, realizing together a tomorrow of which we can be proud of. So, for today is everything. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.